Divorced men. When ex said I want divorce, how did she react when you said finally? Story 1. My ex loved ultimatums the way some people love coffee. First thing in the morning, and loud. For years it was, change jobs or I'm leaving. Stop talking to your sister or I'm leaving. Sell the motorcycle or I'm leaving. Every argument ended with her rehearsed line, delivered like she expected thunder to clap and me to beg. The night she said, I want a divorce, she had props. A manila folder on the kitchen table. A calm voice like she'd been practicing in the mirror. She even wore the responsible adult cardigan. I looked at the folder, then at her. I felt relief. Not rage, not sadness. Relief like pulling off a tight shoe you didn't realize was cutting off circulation. Finally, I said. Her face froze. The calm cracked like glass. Excuse me? Finally, I repeated, softer. I've been trying to find the courage to say it for 2 years. She blinked fast, like I'd spoken another language. Then she did what she always did. Went for the throat. So you don't even care? After everything I did for you? I nodded toward the folder. This isn't you doing something for me. This is you doing something to me. Because you think I'll panic, she scoffed. But her hands shook when she grabbed her phone. I watched her thumb fly over the screen. I later found out she texted her best friend. He didn't fight. What do I do? That's the part that still gets me. She didn't text, I'm sad. She texted, what do I do? Like I was a vending machine that didn't dispense the correct reaction. Over the next week, she tried to reassemble the script. One day she was ice cold and businesslike. The next she was crying on my chest like we were in a movie. Then she got angry again and said she'd take everything. I just kept saying, okay, let's do it properly. At mediation, she kept fishing for the moment where I'd break. When the mediator asked why we were divorcing, she went into a speech about my emotional unavailability. I didn't argue. I just said, we've both been unhappy. I agree we should end it. She stared at me like I'd stolen her spotlight. After we signed the papers, she pulled me aside in the hallway and whispered, I thought you'd fight for me. I didn't mean to be cruel, but it came out honest. You didn't want a husband. You wanted an audience. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she straightened her cardigan, lifted her chin, and walked away. Still performing, even as the credits rolled. Story 2. She said, I want a divorce in the middle of Target, by the lamp aisle, holding a throw pillow like a shield. We'd been arguing about stupid stuff for months, and I was so tired my bones felt tired. I just sighed and said, finally. She stared, eyes wide, then laughed, one sharp bark. Wait, seriously? Yeah, I said. I'm done being your punching bag in public. She looked around like someone might have heard. Then she shoved the pillow into my cart and hissed, you don't get to be the one who's okay. The funniest part? She demanded we still split the cart items fairly, like we were negotiating NATO. I walked out with nothing but my keys and the weird piece of not arguing about lamps ever again. Story 3. My ex and I ran a small catering business together. That was the marriage. Spreadsheets, invoices, her micromanaging my breathing, and me pretending partnership meant love. When she said, I want a divorce, it wasn't during a fight. It was after a wedding gig, counting tips in the van like she was canceling a subscription. I said finally without thinking. And the silence after was so heavy I thought the van battery died. She didn't explode. She did something scarier. She got quiet. Her eyes went distant like she was doing math. That's not what you're supposed to say. What was I supposed to say? I asked. Beg? She swallowed. I thought this would reset you. You'd promise things. Try harder. There it was. Divorce as leverage. A grenade she expected me to dive on. The next week, she came at me like a CEO. She wanted to stay friends, keep the business, keep our clients, keep our shared social circle, keep the story that I gave up. She proposed we still work together during the divorce for stability. I told her no. I offered to buy her out or let her buy me out. Clean cut. No lingering. No shared calendar invites and fake smiles at tastings. That's when her mask cracked. Not tears. Panic. You can't do that. The vendors like you. The chefs listen to you. Then it'll work out for you, I said. Or it won't. Either way, it won't be my problem. She started showing up unannounced at my apartment with business questions that were really emotional fishing hooks. One time she brought a folder of old photos like evidence in a trial. Look, she said, flipping through pictures of us laughing at a beach. We were happy. We were having a good hour, I replied. That's not the same thing. At court, she tried the sympathy angle. Told the judge she was blindsided by my lack of interest in reconciliation. I didn't correct her. I didn't need to. The paperwork and the buyout agreement did the talking. The real reaction came months later, after the business officially became mine and I'd changed the passwords. She left me a voicemail, voice trembling with anger. You ruined my life. I listened twice, then deleted it. Because for the first time in years, her crisis didn't require my participation. Story 4. I was a firefighter. My ex hated that I could sleep through anything, and that my job demanded attention that wasn't hers. If the pager went off during dinner, she'd glare like the building on fire was doing it on purpose. When she finally said, "I want a divorce," she did it with theatrical calm, like she was granting mercy. I'd just gotten home after a 20-hour shift smelling like smoke and plastic. I sat down on the edge of the couch and said, "Finally." Her mouth opened and closed. "Don't act relieved." "This is hard for me." "I'm sure it is," I said. "But it's not a surprise." She launched into a list. I wasn't present. I loved my crew more than her. I cared about strangers more than our marriage. She was crying by the end, but it felt like she was crying at the injustice of me not collapsing. Then she made her move. "I'll tell everyone you chose the job over me." I looked at her and realized something simple. "You've been telling everyone that for years." That stopped her, like she'd thrown a punch and hit air. What followed was a month of emotional whiplash. One day she was sending angry emails about who gets the couch. The next she was texting late-night memories like we were two teenagers who lost our way. She even showed up at the station once with coffee for my crew, smiling too hard, trying to reclaim an audience. My captain pulled me aside after she left. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and meant it. That's when I knew the divorce wasn't a tragedy. It was a rescue. The biggest moment came at mediation. She expected me to fight over the house to prove I cared. Instead, I offered a fair split and asked for one thing: the dog. She laughed like I'd told a joke. "You can't take my dog. He sleeps on my boots when I'm on shift," I said. "He waits at the door when my truck comes back. He's been my dog the whole time." Her eyes went glossy. "So that's it? You don't even want to try?" I said the truth gently. "You didn't want a partner. You wanted someone who could never leave the room. My job will always pull me out of rooms." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Maybe I finally was. When it was over, she posted a long social media rant about men who don't fight. My crew sent me screenshots with laughing emojis. I didn't respond. That night, the dog curled up at my feet, and the apartment was quiet in a way that felt like breathing. Story 5. She said, "I want a divorce," right after she found out I'd started therapy. Not because she was proud, because she was threatened. She crossed her arms and said, "I'm not doing this anymore." I smiled without meaning to. Finally, her eyes narrowed. "So you've been cheating?" "No," I said. "I've been waking up." She went pale, then immediately tried to backpedal. "I didn't mean it like that. I just need you to take me seriously." "I am taking you seriously," I said. "Let's divorce." That's when she lost it. She started bargaining like a hostage negotiator. Couples counseling, a break, moving to a new city, having a baby. We'd agreed for years we weren't ready. Anything that kept me in the role of trying to earn love. When I still didn't budge, she snapped, "You're supposed to be devastated." I shrugged. "I've done my devastated. I'm out of devastated." 2 weeks later, she told our friends I'd changed, and she didn't recognize me. She was right. I didn't recognize me either. And that was the best part. Story 6. She announced it in the most theatrical setting possible. The parking lot outside her mom's building, right under the bright security camera. Engine off, windows fogging, her phone face down like a gavel. "I want a divorce." I didn't even feel shocked. I felt released. Like my shoulders finally got permission to drop. "Finally," I said. Her head snapped toward me. "Wow, so you've been planning this?" "No," I replied. "I've been surviving it." She stared at me like I'd stolen her big moment. Then she did what she always did when control slipped. She tried to rewrite the scene in real time. She started crying. Loud, messy, performative, and opened the car door like she wanted her mom to hear. I stayed calm. "Close the door. It's cold." That made her cry harder. "You don't care." "I care," I said. "Just not in the way you're used to." "I'm not begging anymore." She wiped her face fast, switching from tears to anger like flipping channels. "Fine. I'll tell everyone you abandoned me." I nodded. "Tell them whatever helps you sleep." She expected me to chase her up the stairs. Instead, I drove home and slept for 9 hours straight for the first time in months. The next day, she texted a single line. "Can we talk?" Like the divorce was a threat she could pull back into the holster. I replied, "We already did." Story 7. My ex tried to divorce me during a dinner party. Not privately, not kindly. Mid-laugh, mid-glass clink. Right when our friends were saying we seemed so solid, she set her fork down and said, smiling like it was cute, "I think I want a divorce." Everyone froze. She waited for me to panic so she could look like the victim and I could look like the unstable one. I just took a sip of water and said, "Finally." The silence was violent. Her smile fell off her face. Excuse me? You heard me. I kept my voice steady. I'm glad you said it out loud. Now everyone knows it wasn't just me being dramatic. She turned bright red. I didn't mean right now. I mean, in general, one of our friends coughed. Someone else suddenly got very interested in the salad. My ex tried to laugh it away. He's joking. I looked at our friends. I'm not joking. I'll move out this week. She stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. You're humiliating me. And there it was, her real emotion. Not heartbreak. Humiliation. She stormed into the bedroom, slammed the door, and I heard her on the phone with her sister whisper shouting, "He didn't fight me." He said finally. People left awkwardly. I cleaned the kitchen alone. When she came out later, her eyes were dry, voice sweet. "We can work this out. I just needed you to take me seriously." I said, "I am taking you seriously." She didn't speak to me for 3 days after that, punishing me for not playing my part. Story 8. She asked for divorce the morning after my promotion. I came home with a stupid grin, carrying a small cake my team had bought. She looked at it like it was a threat. "So, you think you're better than me now?" she said. I blinked. "What?" She paced, building momentum. "You're going to leave." Men always leave when they start doing well. I'm not waiting around to be embarrassed. I want a divorce. I set the cake down, stared at her, and for the first time, the fear didn't show up. "Finally," I said. She stopped pacing like she hit an invisible wall. "Are you happy about this?" "No," I said. "I'm just done being punished for good news." Her face tightened. "So you admit you were going to leave?" "I admit I was trying," I said. "Trying to make you feel safe. Trying to make you proud. Trying to shrink my life so you wouldn't feel threatened." She went quiet, then started negotiating instantly. Okay, maybe I overreacted. "We can do counseling." I shook my head. "If you can't celebrate me, you don't get to keep me," she cried, but the tears felt like frustration, not grief. She kept saying, "I didn't think you'd agree," like the agreement was the betrayal. The promotion cake sat untouched on the counter the whole day. That night I ate a slice alone and it tasted like freedom. Story 9. My ex used divorce the way some people use punctuation. "You forgot the trash?" "I want a divorce." "You bought the wrong cereal?" "Divorce." "You're 5 minutes late?" "Divorce." I started saying okay out of exhaustion, but she'd always laugh and call me dramatic, like the threat was just a funny little tool to keep me obedient. Then one night she did it again, over nothing. I'd fallen asleep on the couch after a double shift. She woke me up by turning on every light. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I want a divorce." I rubbed my eyes and said, "Finally." Her jaw dropped. "Wait, what?" "Finally," I repeated. "Get the papers." "I'll sign." She looked genuinely offended. "You're not even going to ask why." "I know why," I said. "Because you like the power of almost leaving. You don't like actually leaving." She started yelling, then crying, then yelling again. At one point she screamed, "You're supposed to chase me." That sentence was the whole marriage in one line. The next day she called her mom, trying to get back up. Her mom came over, sat at my kitchen table and asked, "Are you sure about this?" I smiled politely. "Ma'am, I've never been more sure of anything." My ex stared at her own mother like she'd been betrayed. Then she spent 2 weeks pretending I was the one destroying the family. I didn't argue. I just kept packing my boxes. Nothing kills manipulation faster than someone calmly walking away. Story 10. She said, "I want a divorce," in a therapist's office, on purpose. We were doing couples counseling as a last-ditch attempt. The therapist asked a gentle question. "What do you each need to feel respected?" My ex leaned back, crossed her legs and said, "Honestly, I need a divorce." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. She loved dramatic exits. She loved putting people on the spot. I looked at the therapist and said, "Finally." The therapist's eyebrows lifted slightly, like she'd just had a suspicion confirmed. My ex sputtered. "See? That's what I mean. He doesn't care." I didn't raise my voice. "I care. I just don't want to be married to someone who threatens to leave every time they don't get their way." The therapist asked, "Is divorce something you've used before in conflicts?" My ex snapped, "That's irrelevant." The therapist nodded slowly. "It's actually very relevant." My ex's face went tight. She turned to me, eyes sharp. "You're enjoying this?" "No," I said. "I'm accepting reality. There's a difference." In the parking lot afterward, she tried to take it back. "I didn't mean it. I just wanted you to fight for us." I opened my car door and said, "I've been fighting for years. Today I'm choosing peace." She stood there, stunned, as if peace was an insult. Then she yelled, "You'll regret this." I got in the car and drove home, and for the first time in a long time, my chest didn't feel tight. Story 11. She asked for the divorce the same day the green card interview letter arrived. Not because she didn't want it, because she'd already gotten what she wanted. 2 years of We're a team. 2 years of me paying for lawyers, fees, translations, her crying about how scared she was, and then the moment the finish line appeared, she suddenly had a speech prepared. We've grown apart. I want a divorce. I looked at the envelope on the counter, then at her, and it felt like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. Finally, I said. Her eyes widened like I'd just confessed to a crime. So you were using me too? I actually laughed once. No, I married you. You treated me like paperwork. She went ice cold. You can't say that. I just did. She started scrambling immediately, changing tone, offering a break, suggesting we postpone the divorce until after the interview for closure. That's when I knew I was right. Closure didn't need a government appointment. When I refused, she panicked and called her cousin on speaker like it was a courtroom. I heard her say, "He's not cooperating," as if I was a faulty appliance. The wild part? She showed up for the interview alone anyway, trying to claim we were still together. Immigration doesn't like improvisation. After that, she showed up at my door crying that I'd ruined her life. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "You ruined our marriage the moment you made love conditional." She left furious, because I didn't cry, because I didn't beg, because her plan required my silence. Saying finally didn't just end the marriage, it ended her leverage. Story 12. We were the perfect couple at church. She loved that. Loved the hand-holding in the lobby, the smiling during worship, the way people said we were an example. At home, she kept score like a referee and punished me with silence when I didn't play along. The night she said, "I want a divorce," it wasn't after a fight. It was after I told her I didn't want to volunteer for the 5th weekend in a row because I was burned out. She sighed dramatically. "Then I want a divorce." I nodded, almost relieved. "Finally," she flinched, like the word slapped her. "How dare you say that? Do you know what people will think?" There it was. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Are we done?" Just the optics. For a week, she tried to manage the narrative. She wanted us to separate quietly, but still attend together so no one asked questions. She suggested we tell people it was mutual and peaceful, while privately texting me paragraphs about how I'd failed as a spiritual leader. I told her I'd rather be honest than look holy. That's when she melted down, not in grief, but in terror. She begged me not to embarrass her. She even offered to try again if I promised to keep it private. I said, "You're not asking to save a marriage. You're asking to save an image." At the next Sunday service, she walked in alone with red eyes and a practiced expression. I didn't show up. I went for a long drive, windows down, no performance required. Later, I heard she told everyone I abandoned God. Funny, because that was the first day I felt like I could breathe. Story 13. My ex dropped the divorce line while I was still wearing a hospital wristband. I'd been admitted overnight for chest pain that turned out to be stress-related. The doctor literally told me to reduce stress, sleep, and reevaluate what's causing constant anxiety. I came home with discharge papers and a bottle of meds. She didn't ask how I felt. She asked, "So, are you going to start being normal now?" I stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means I can't live like this," she said, waving at the pill bottle like it was an insult. "I want a divorce." Something inside me went quiet, not numb, clear. "Finally," I said. Her face changed instantly, like she couldn't decide whether to be angry or scared. "You're sick and you're making jokes?" "I'm not joking," I replied. "I nearly ended up in the ER because living with you feels like walking on broken glass." She went on the attack, said I was dramatic, manipulative, using my health to guilt her. Then she switched to sweet voice. "We can fix this. Just don't throw everything away." I picked up my discharge papers. "You already did. You just didn't think I'd notice." She tried to block the hallway, crying, saying, "What about our vows?" I looked at her and said, "My vow wasn't to slowly die from stress so you could feel in control." The divorce moved fast after that. The day the judge signed it, my chest felt lighter than it had in years. Ironically, the health scare wasn't the crisis. The marriage was. Story 14. She tried to divorce me as content. I noticed the phone propped on the bookshelf, camera aimed at the living room. She'd been chasing couple prank views for months. Staged arguments, fake crying, the whole thing. I hated it. But every time I complained, she'd say I was killing her dream. She walked in with that influencer voice. "We need to talk. I want a divorce." I looked straight at the phone lens and then back at her. Finally, her smile twitched. Her eyes flicked to the camera, then back to me, like her brain was buffering. "Babe, stop. This is serious." "It is," I said, and I walked over and picked up the phone. The screen was recording. Comments already popping in from her live. "OMG, what happened?" She lunged for it, whispering sharply, "Don't ruin this." I ended the stream and set the phone down. "You just said you want a divorce." I'm agreeing. She went from fake somber to real panic in half a second. I didn't mean it. It's a trend. Couples do it and then the boyfriend begs and you get views. I finished. I'm not your storyline. She started crying. Not because she'd hurt me, but because she'd lost control of the narrative. She kept repeating, "You can't do this to me," as if I was the villain in her video. When the papers were filed, she posted a vague, "He didn't support me" montage. I didn't respond. My best revenge was not giving her the reaction she could monetize. Story 15. She told me she wanted a divorce right after I discovered the debt. I was opening mail. 3 credit card statements in my name that I'd never seen. Maxed out. Late fees. A personal loan I never signed for. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. When she walked in, I held up the statements. "What is this?" She didn't even pretend confusion. She just exhaled like she was tired of acting. "I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce, like divorce would erase the math." I nodded slowly. "Finally." Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me?" "Finally," I repeated. "I was wondering how long you'd keep lying." She snapped into anger. "You don't get to judge me. You were boring. I needed things. I needed a life. You needed my signature," I said. "And you took it." That's when she panicked. Real panic. She started crying and saying she'd fix it, that it was temporary, that she only did it because she was under pressure. Then she shifted to threats. She'd take the house. She'd tell everyone I was abusive. She'd destroy me. I looked at her and said, "You already tried. It's on paper." The next weeks were ugly. She begged me not to involve the police. Her mom called me asking me to handle it privately. My ex kept texting, "Please don't ruin my life." Funny, because she didn't mind ruining mine. In court, she tried to act like we were just financially incompatible. The judge didn't love forged signatures. The divorce was finalized, and the debt became a separate battle. But the moment she'll never forget is still the simplest one. Her best weapon, "I want a divorce," didn't scare me. It freed me. Story 16. She dropped it on a random Tuesday like she was ordering takeout. We were standing in the laundry room, arguing about detergent of all things. She jabbed the bottle like it was evidence. "I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce." I didn't even feel the urge to defend myself. I just felt tired in the cleanest way. Like my body finally accepted the truth. "Finally," I said. She blinked hard. "Are you serious?" "Completely." She laughed, sharp and offended. "So you're just going to give up? Wow, that's pathetic." I nodded toward the washer. "That's the thing. You think agreeing means I lose. I think agreeing means I'm done losing." She stood there, waiting for the panic that always used to come. When it didn't, her face shifted into something I'd never seen on her before. Uncertainty. She tried to reset the conversation. "I just mean, you don't fight for anything. That's why I'm unhappy." I said, "I fought for us for years. You just didn't count it unless I was bleeding." Later that night, she texted me from the bedroom like a teenager. "Are you really okay with this?" I replied, "I'm not okay. I'm free." The next week, she swung between rage and sweetness. One morning, she made my favorite breakfast like we were a sitcom couple. That afternoon, she threatened to ruin me if I told anyone her side. When I kept calm through all of it, she finally yelled, "Stop being so calm." And I realized my peace felt like disrespect to her because it meant she didn't control the weather inside me anymore. Story 17. She asked for divorce right after I said I wanted to go back to school. I'd been working the same job for years, and I finally admitted I wanted more. Night classes, a certification, a future that didn't feel like slowly fading out. She stared at me across the kitchen table and said, "So you're going to leave me behind?" "I'm trying to build something," I said. "For us." She shook her head, eyes narrowing. "No, for you. And if you're going to change, I want a divorce." I didn't even argue. I just exhaled and said, "Finally." Her mouth opened, closed. "What? Finally?" I repeated, "because I'm not staying married to someone who treats my growth like betrayal." She immediately tried to walk it back. "I didn't mean it like that. I just need reassurance." "I've been reassuring you for years," I said. "You don't want reassurance. You want permission to keep me small." That line hit her like a cold splash. She started crying, telling me I was being cruel, telling me she supported me, telling me she just got scared. Maybe she did get scared. But fear doesn't give you the right to cage someone. When the papers were filed, she posted vague quotes about men who change and forget who loved them first. Friends messaged me asking what happened. I just said, I finally listened to myself. The first day of class, I sat in the back row, nervous and excited, and realized something. I wasn't starting over. I was continuing, without a weight tied to my ankles. Story 18. She waited until my dad's funeral to say it. Not during the service. Not at the graveside. After, when the casseroles were still warm and the relatives were still hugging me, she cornered me in the hallway of my childhood home and whispered, "I want a divorce." I stared at her like I'd misheard. "Now?" She looked annoyed. "There's never a good time with you. You're always dealing with something." That's when a weird calm washed over me. The kind you feel when you finally accept someone is exactly who they are. "Finally," I said. Her eyes widened, and for a second she looked genuinely scared, like she expected me to explode. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Be cold," she snapped. "I'm the one ending it." I nodded. "Okay, end it." She started scrambling immediately. "I didn't mean today. I need you to react." "You're acting like you wanted this." "I did," I said quietly. "Just not like this. Not here." She tried to turn it into a fight, raising her voice so my aunt poked her head out of the kitchen. My ex instantly softened her tone, wiped her eyes, and said sweetly, "We're just overwhelmed." That was her talent, performing grief while causing it. After she left, my aunt sat next to me and said, "Honey, you look relieved." I surprised myself by nodding. "I am." Later, my ex texted, "You embarrassed me in front of your family." I replied, "You tried to divorce me at my father's funeral." She never answered. Some things don't fit into a pretty story. Story 19. She used divorce like a trapdoor whenever she felt guilty. If she forgot my birthday, maybe we should get divorced. If she flirted too hard at a party, I think we're not working. If I caught her lying, fine. Let's just divorce then. It was always a smoke bomb. A way to escape accountability by turning the spotlight onto my reaction. One night I found messages. Nothing physical yet, but emotional, intimate, secret. When I confronted her, she didn't apologize. She rolled her eyes and said, "I want a divorce." I nodded. "Finally." She froze, then got angry fast. "So you wanted this? You were looking for an excuse." I held up her phone. "No. You were." She started crying, and for a second I thought it might be real. Then she said, "If you loved me, you'd fight for me." I said, "If you loved me, you wouldn't need me to fight for basic respect." That's when she got mean. She told me nobody would want me, that I'd be alone forever, that I'd regret it when she moved on easily. I just kept packing a bag. The next week, she tried to get ahead of the story. She told friends we mutually decided to separate because I was emotionally distant. The truth was, I was emotionally exhausted. When the divorce was finalized, she messaged me, "I didn't think you'd actually do it." I replied, "That's the problem. You never thought I'd choose myself." Story 20. She asked for the divorce after she got her new friend group. Suddenly, she had girls' nights, inside jokes I wasn't part of, and a personality that looked suspiciously borrowed. She started correcting the way I spoke, mocking my hobbies, acting like my quiet life was embarrassing. One night she came home late, smelling like a bar, and announced, "I want a divorce." I didn't even ask why. I just smiled tiredly and said, "Finally." Her confidence slipped for half a second. "You're agreeing?" "Yeah," I said. "You've been auditioning for a different life for months." She scoffed. "You're just jealous." "No," I replied. "I'm just not competing for my own wife." She expected me to beg, to promise vacations and romance and reinvention. Instead, I asked practical questions. Timelines, logistics, who moves out? That made her furious. "Why are you being so robotic?" "Because emotions didn't work with you," I said. "Facts do." A week later, one of her new friends messaged me privately. Just one line, "I'm sorry. She told us you were abusive." That's when I understood the friend group wasn't an accident. It was a jury she'd been building. I didn't defend myself to strangers. I didn't chase a narrative. I focused on the exit. Months later, I ran into her at a grocery store. She looked smaller somehow, less certain. She said, "You moved on fast." I shrugged. "I moved on the day you stopped respecting me." The paperwork just caught up. Story 21. She asked for the divorce on a Zoom call because she wanted distance, not intimacy. We'd been long distance for 8 months while I took a contract job to pay off what we called our goals. She hated the quiet parts of life, the waiting, the planning, the boring teamwork. She wanted fireworks or nothing. Her face appeared on my laptop, perfectly framed, hair done. She didn't ask about my day. She didn't ask if I'd eaten. She just said, "I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce." I blinked once and felt a strange warmth in my chest, like a knot loosening. "Finally," I said. Her smile twitched like the internet lagged. "What did you just say?" "Finally," I repeated. "I've been living like a placeholder you can mute when it's inconvenient." She snapped, "You're being dramatic." "You're divorcing me through Wi-Fi," I said. "That's dramatic." Then she tried to pivot, fast. "I didn't mean right now. I just need you to show me you still care." "There it is," I said. "You don't want a divorce. You want a performance." Her eyes went hard. So you're just going to throw away everything? I leaned closer to the camera. You already did. You just expected me to keep paying for it. She ended the call first. 30 seconds later, she texted, "Can we talk?" I answered, "We just did." A week later, she mailed me a handwritten letter about soulmates and timing. It smelled like perfume and manipulation. I signed the papers, sent them back, and felt more present alone than I ever did with her. Story 22. She demanded a divorce the moment she realized I'd stopped arguing. We used to fight like it was a sport. Hours of circular accusations. Her raising her voice until I apologized just to make it stop. Then I started therapy, learned how to disengage, learned how not to feed the fire. I'd say things like, "I hear you," and "I'll think about that," and walk away. It drove her insane. One night she cornered me in the hallway and said, "I want a divorce." I didn't flinch. I didn't plead. I just nodded. Finally, her pupils widened. "No, don't do that calm thing." "I'm not doing a thing," I said. "I'm agreeing with you." She laughed like I'd told a joke, then realized I wasn't joking. Her voice jumped an octave. "So you don't love me?" "I love who I hoped you'd be," I said. "But I'm tired of living in a hostage situation where peace cost me my dignity." That's when she changed tactics. She dropped her voice, softened her face, and tried to touch my arm like we were in a commercial. "Okay, maybe I'm just overwhelmed. Maybe we can start over." I stepped back. Starting over doesn't work if you keep bringing the same weapon. Her reaction wasn't heartbreak. It was fury, because my calm meant she couldn't steer the moment. She slammed a door, threw a pillow, told me I'd regret it. Then she called my brother to warn him about me, like she was trying to recruit a judge. The divorce itself was shockingly quick. The real drama was afterward, when she realized there was no longer an audience, no longer a stage, no longer a man she could rattle into obedience. The day I moved out, she stood in the driveway and screamed, "Say something." I got in my car and said, "I already did." Story 23. She pulled the divorce card right after I refused to cover for her. We worked at the same company, different departments. She'd been reckless, gossiping, stirring conflict, taking credit for things that weren't hers. When HR started asking questions, she wanted me to lie. "Just say you didn't see anything," she insisted. "Be my husband," I told her. "I'm not risking my career for your mess." That night she came home furious, paced the living room, then delivered her line like a judge. "I want a divorce." I looked up from my plate, chewed slowly, and said, "Finally." She froze. "You're choosing your job over me?" "I'm choosing integrity over chaos," I said. "You're not asking for support. You're asking for a cover-up." She tried to switch to tears. "You don't have my back." "I did," I said, "for years. That's why you got comfortable doing whatever you wanted." Then she went for what she thought was the kill shot. "I'll tell everyone you're the reason I'm miserable." I nodded. "Tell them. Just don't ask me to lie again." For the next month, she attempted to control the story at work. Sad eyes, vague comments about betrayal, implying I was cold. The problem with a workplace is people eventually notice patterns. When she got formally disciplined, she blamed me louder. When I didn't react, she got quieter. After the divorce was finalized, she sent me one last email. "I thought you'd fight for us." I replied, "I did. You fought against us. The best part is boring. I kept my job, my sleep improved, and my home stopped feeling like a courtroom." Story 24. She asked for a divorce right after I suggested a parenting schedule. We'd been staying together for the kids, which actually meant living like roommates who resented each other. She'd punish me through the children, changing pickup times last minute, telling them Dad forgot, making me look unreliable. I kept swallowing it because I didn't want war. Then our daughter missed a recital because my ex forgot to tell me the time changed. My kid cried in the car. Something inside me snapped, quietly. That night I said, "We need a written schedule. For them." My ex's eyes narrowed. "So you think I'm a bad mother?" "I think the kids deserve consistency," I said. She leaned forward, voice sharp. "Fine. Then I want a divorce." I didn't even hesitate. "Finally." She looked offended, like I'd refused to accept a gift. "You're happy?" "I'm relieved," I said, "because I'm done letting you use the kids as leverage." She tried to backtrack instantly. "I didn't mean it. You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm reacting for the first time." The next week she tried every trick. Tears, rage, guilt, even flirting, saying we could be a family again if I stopped being difficult. I told her the same thing every time. The schedule is for the kids. The divorce is for us. In mediation, she expected me to crumble. I came with dates, school calendars, and a calm voice. When the mediator complimented our cooperative approach, my ex shot me a look like I'd cheated at a game. After everything was signed, my son said, "It's quieter now." He meant it like a compliment. I did too. Story 25. She asked for divorce after she opened our open marriage without me. We'd had a rough patch and she suggested opening things up like it was a miracle cure. I said no. I wanted counseling, not extra people. She agreed, out loud. Then I found the messages, the meetups, the whole second life. When I confronted her, she didn't apologize. She rolled her eyes and said, "This is why I'm unhappy. I want a divorce." I stared at her and felt this weird clarity like fog lifting. "Finally," I said. Her expression glitched. "Oh my God. So you're judging me." "I'm not judging you," I said. "I'm choosing not to live in your double standard." She scoffed. "You're insecure." "No," I said. "I'm uninterested in being gaslit into accepting betrayal as growth." That made her furious. She tried to reframe it. She was exploring. She was finding herself. I was controlling. Then she tried tenderness, calling me by a nickname she hadn't used in years, telling me she still wanted us, just with freedom. I said, "Freedom doesn't mean hiding. Freedom doesn't mean lying. You didn't want freedom. You wanted permission." Her voice went small. "You're really leaving?" I nodded. "Yeah, that's what finally means." Later, she posted cryptic quotes about men who can't evolve. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue online. I just rebuilt a life where love wasn't a loophole and commitment wasn't a joke. Story 26. She waited until my birthday dinner to do it. Candlelit restaurant. Waiter smiling too hard, her hands folded like she was about to say grace. "I want a divorce," she said softly, like she was being brave. For a second, I thought it was a prank. Then I saw the little spark in her eyes, the part of her that liked the timing, liked the shock. I leaned back, exhaled, and said, "Finally." Her fork paused midair. "Are you kidding me?" "No," I said. "This is the first honest thing you've said in years." Her face flushed. She looked around like she was checking who heard. "You're humiliating me." "I'm not," I replied. "You chose a birthday dinner for a breakup announcement. That's humiliation with table service." She started crying immediately, but it felt strategic. Tears to make the waiter and nearby tables stare at me like I was a villain. The waiter walked up and asked if everything was okay. She sniffed and said, "We're fine," like she was protecting me. Then she shot me a look that screamed, "Play along." I didn't. I paid my half, stood up and said, "Have a good night." Outside, she hissed, "You're really just leaving?" I nodded. "Yes. You wanted the dramatic exit. I'm giving you the boring one." She texted me later. "I didn't think you'd actually accept it." That was the whole point. She wanted the threat. I gave her the outcome. Story 27. She asked for divorce the first time I ever told her no, and meant it. We were at her sister's house. Her family loved making me the punching bag. Jokes about my job, my weight, my quiet personality. My wife always laughed along like it was harmless. That night, her brother made a comment about how I was lucky anyone married me. Normally, I'd swallow it. Instead, I said, calm and clear, "Don't talk to me like that." The room went silent. My wife's eyes widened like I'd broken a rule. On the drive home, she was shaking with anger. "You embarrassed me." "I set a boundary," I said. She snapped, "I want a divorce." I blinked, then felt something like relief spread through my chest. "Finally," I said. She jerked her head toward me. "What did you say?" "Finally," I repeated. "Because if you'd rather divorce me than defend me, then this was never marriage. It was a membership in your family." She went quiet, then started bargaining. I was upset. "I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did," I said. "You meant it the moment you chose their comfort over my dignity." For days, she tried to punish me with silence. Then she tried affection. Then she tried guilt. None of it worked because my finally wasn't anger. It was clarity. When we told her family, they were furious at me. They said I was tearing the family apart. My ex looked shocked that they didn't blame her. She wanted to be the hero leaving the difficult husband. Instead, she became the woman who divorced a man for asking not to be insulted. Story 28. She asked for the divorce right after she got the new car. We'd saved for it together, or so I thought. I worked overtime, skipped weekends, said no to trips. She'd been sweet during the saving phase. Extra sweet. Then the moment she drove that new car home, she changed. Started coming home later. Started nitpicking everything I did. Started acting like she'd upgraded and I hadn't. One night, she tossed her keys on the counter and said, "I want a divorce." I looked at the keys, then at her face, and it all made brutal sense. "Finally," I said. She laughed like I was bluffing. "You're just saying that to scare me." "No," I replied. "I'm saying it because I see you now." Her expression shifted. "So you think I used you?" "I think you collected upgrades," I said. "You didn't build a life. You built a ladder." She got angry fast. "You're jealous. You're insecure." I stayed calm. "I'm just done being your stepping stone." Then she did the weirdest thing. She offered to work on it. if I agreed to keep paying for the car until things stabilize. That's when I almost smiled. The mask slipped completely. I said, no. Divorce means you drive your own choices. The day I moved out, she stood in the driveway next to that shiny car, crying like the car was the only thing that listened. I didn't hate her. I just didn't belong in her upgrade plan anymore. Story 29. She asked for divorce during an argument about my mom. My mother was sick, and I'd been spending more time helping her. Doctor visits, groceries, prescriptions. My wife hated it. She'd roll her eyes when my phone rang. She'd say things like, "She's manipulating you." One night she snapped, "You're married to your mother." I want a divorce. I stared at her, exhausted, and said, "Finally." Her confidence flickered. "What? Finally?" I repeated. "Because I'm not divorcing my family to stay married to someone who sees compassion as competition." She got loud. "So I'm the bad guy now? After everything I've done?" I didn't take the bait. "You're not the villain. You're just not my partner." Then she tried a softer tone, like she remembered how to act supportive. "Okay, maybe I said it wrong. I just want boundaries." "You want control," I said. "Boundaries don't require cruelty." She cried, then accused me of choosing my mom. The truth was I was choosing decency. At mediation, she told everyone I was a mama's boy. I didn't argue. I just showed the hospital paperwork and explained that marriage didn't erase responsibility to family. The mediator nodded. My ex looked furious that reality wasn't on her side. After the divorce, my mom squeezed my hand in the hospital and whispered, "You look lighter." I was. Not because my mom got better, but because my home stopped being another place I had to beg for empathy. Story 30. She asked for divorce right after I stopped drinking. That's the part people don't expect. I wasn't a monster. I was a guy who drank too much to cope with constant criticism and anxiety at home. One day I woke up, looked at myself, and decided I was done. I joined a support group, started running, started sleeping, started becoming someone I could respect. She hated it. At first she mocked me. "Oh, look at you, Mr. Healthy." Then she tried sabotaging, bringing wine home, picking fights right when I'd go to meetings. Finally, she sat me down and said, "I can't be with you like this. I want a divorce." I nodded, surprised by how calm I felt. Finally, she blinked, offended. "So you don't even care?" "I care," I said. "But I'm not going back to the version of me you could control." That's when she cracked. "You're changing. You're leaving me behind." I shook my head. "I'm changing so I don't die. You're the one who's leaving, because you liked me better when I was numb." She started crying, saying she missed the old us. I almost felt sorry for her, until she said, "Can't you just drink a little? Like normal couples?" That's when I knew the marriage was built on my self-destruction. The divorce was messy, but my sobriety held. The wildest twist? Months later, she messaged me, "You seem happier. I didn't think you could do it." I didn't reply. My finally wasn't a punchline. It was the first step out of a cage.